All right, welcome to Fantasy Six Pack Network. My name is Joe Bond, founder of FantasySixPack.net. With me tonight is Corey Pieper. What's going on, man?
Just enjoying another week of football here in the Midwest. The weather is we're having like this 80-degree burst of a couple days, which in Wisconsin at this time of the year is rare. It's usually like 40, so I'm enjoying that. Got to take advantage of this late summer, but yeah, pretty good week of football. Watching the Steelers and the Giants here. It's competitive.
Yeah, I haven't been able to watch any of it. Just got downstairs to do this, so I'll turn it on afterwards. But yep, we are here to give you our week 9 waivers. I know the banner said week 8. I clearly did not update that. So let's put that back on. Week 9 waivers. Let's try that again. All right. So good deal. Let's get this show on the road. I think we got a lot of repeats, but they're goodies this time around, I feel like. So let's do it. First up, man, Keon Coleman. Talked about him last week. Last week, the first game with Amari Cooper kind of went off, right? 7 targets, 125 yards. 2 big plays kind of got him all that yardage. This week, another game with Amari Cooper. Looking pretty good. Overall, a better fantasy day, less yardage, but got the touchdown. So, we a little bit more excited about Keon Coleman this time, or still a little trepidation, but still worth a pickup?
No, we're getting more excited now. It was worth a pickup last week to stash and see. Now I think Amari Cooper's going to help everything in this offense. It was
Yep.
the best game for Khalil Shakir. He went over 100 yards and I think 8 or 9 receptions. And this is a more repeatable effort from Keon Coleman. You mentioned it last week. It was the two, I think 90%, like over 90 yards came on 2 receptions.
Yeah.
This week, he was dominating the middle of the field. And Josh Allen, if you saw the touchdown at all, it was maybe about the 5-yard line. He just threw it up and trusted him to go up and get it over Tariq Woolen. He did it. So the rookie who they spent high draft capital on, it was their first pick. It was, I believe, the first pick of the second round because they traded back.
Mm-hmm.
But this is Josh Allen starting to trust Keon Coleman. Amari Cooper is just shifting the entire way defenses are playing him. At this point, you got to go at him.
Yeah.
We're going to hit bye weeks here. There's a pretty good potential that your Keon Coleman is going to be in your lineup more weeks than you think. So go get him.
Yeah. I mean, you talk about, just throwing the jump ball to Keon Coleman. I mean, like, what did he do best at Florida State? I mean, that's what he was known for, man. He was an ESPN top 10 highlight reel, man, like every single week, man. He was crazy good. I was excited for him coming into this, but he's not the most polished receiver, but he's got that dominant like trait where he can just go and get it. But next up here, we got Cedric Tillman, another repeat player here. I mean, just targets galore. I think we're all liking this offense now that Winston's in there, but I'll let you have a bit more.
No, you nailed it, man. He's following up his breakout. It's another one. He breaks out the first week with Jameis. Actually, that was more DTR at quarterback even than Jameis, but the 12 targets, he caught 8 for 81 the first week. He fouls it up. Doesn't get 12 targets, but 9. That's great. He's at a 23% and a 21% target share. That's a top 20 receiver number right there. And then he catches 7 of those 9 targets for 99 yards and 2 touchdowns. He finished. We're still got the last game going here, but it doesn't look like based off the first half anyone's going to catch him. So he's going to finish 3rd in PPR scoring this week behind CeeDee Lamb, who had that monster last night with 2 of the easiest touchdowns you'll ever see, and fellow rookie Lad McConkey. But he's winning in a way to me that's similar to what Nico Collins does when he's healthy with Houston. He had a 17-yard ADOT in that game. He's a big receiver who they're looking to down the field. There is no questioning that Jameis Winston loves to throw it deep. And so I think you just got to go add Cedric Tillman. Last week, if you wanted to take it cautious, I understood it. This was his first game that he's ever really done anything. But 2 weeks in a row, if you took the chance and added him cheap last week and just stashed him on your bench, congratulations. Because if you didn't and you're going to try getting him now, it's going to cost you much, much more.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm kicking myself because there's actually a dynasty league I'm in where, I mean, I had him and I finally caught him like before the season started. I picked up just a whole slew of rookies because I was in complete rebuild and I needed I was desperate to just go get anybody with upside, and I felt like Tillman was sort of like, where's he gonna go? Like, Cooper and Moore and Judy and everybody else, and like Watson was terrible, and so yeah, this one hurts a little bit, but good to see this Browns offense finally clicking here. And speaking of the Browns offense, we got another one here, Elijah Moore, the guy who, the one who is still on my roster on that team. Okay. So we're looking at Week 8 stats here, and looking like 12 targets, 8 receptions, 85 yards. I think that's a long of 19, 7.1 average, and then 10.6 points there. So,
yes, sir.
What's your take on Elijah Moore? And then I want to ask you a follow-up question about it, but I'll give you the floor.
So Cedric Tillman's just getting the highlights because his weeks have been slightly bigger. But even last week, when they transitioned away from Deshaun Watson, Elijah Moore had 6 catches for 41 yards on all 6 targets. This week, the targets are there. The 8 catches for 85. He's in the slot. He's basically playing the slot receiver role exclusively for Cleveland. He was in the slot 75% of the time. And it may seem like there's a long time ago, but 2-3 years ago with the Jets when he was a rookie, there was a lot of excitement about Elijah Moore. He came out, had one of his last games, I think if this was rookie season, he had 10 catches for 130 yards and a touchdown. And then it's just kind of faded into the blackness here, and we haven't seen him, but he's still really young. He's still very talented, and the entire floor of this and the ceiling of this Browns offense is so much higher with Jameis Winston.
Yes.
It's so much higher because they threw for 330 yards yesterday. They finally scored over 20 points. Right. If you watch the game at all, the highs were there. Like Jameis led him to a win, but if you saw it at the last drive, he threw one right to Kyle Hamilton that he dropped. Yeah. But then they bounces back with the TD. So you get the highs and the lows. There will be poor games. I'm not going to sit here and say there's not going to be poor games from this team, but you're also going to get some massive blow-up games from these guys as long as Jameis is the quarterback. So I think you got to add Elijah Moore too.
He loves to just throw the ball. If he thinks he can fit it in, he's going to try. Like there was another throw earlier in the game where he was like kind of rolling out to his left. He stopped and just threw it, and I think it was actually Moore. Just like stood there and just watched it go like 5 yards to the right of him, right to a Ravens, and the guy just dropped it. But it was like Elijah Moore just goes, just walks back like like what are you gonna do about that? But that's that's
Jameis experience,
Winston, right? That is Jameis Winston. You've just got to take the highs with the lows. Pretty fun there. Yeah, dude, Elijah Moore too. He was a guy I have him on the dynasty team. That season, right? That was the start of my rebuild. It has not gone well. And this is the perfect example why. So I had like 4 second-round picks. Mm-hmm. I traded 2 of them to move up to have back-to-back picks in the very start of the second round. I took Michael Carter and Elijah Moore. I was like, am I really going to take 2 Jets? I'm like, yeah, but I love the talent. So like I did. It was looking okay for both of them, honestly. Very first year was like Michael Carter was but it shows some flashes. Elijah Moore, like again, you just talked about it, was good, especially near the end. Then the very next year, they go out and get Breece Hall, and I was like, oh no! And then Elijah Moore just like faded into the abyss with just poor quarterback play. And I'm like, what happened? So yeah, it's been a long rebuild. But I think I'm finally getting there. So, all right, next up here, man, we got Jalen McMillan. You put the snap counts here. I'm guessing this is 3 weeks in a row of snap counts for him. So we're liking what we see here as far as usage.
So that 14 is when both Mike Evans and Chris Godwin were still healthy. Then 49 there. As we were recording last Monday night,
right.
It was a brutal night. If you were a roster of Mike Evans hurt his hamstring and is going to miss, I'm going to say it probably another 2. I think they have 2 more games and then a bye. And that from all indications he's going to be out for that. And then at the end of the game, the just brutal one at least for, I don't know, a lot of people and me specifically, I have a lot of Chris Godwin. And then just in garbage time, he gets hurt out for the season. That sucked. But we always look for who gets to fill in these opportunities, and we're going with Jalen McMillan because he took the most snaps yesterday, led the team, 59 of them. Now, I couldn't really put the production on here because it hasn't been great.
Right.
But the last 2 weeks, he has 15 targets. He had 8 and 7, and he's only caught 7 passes for 50 yards. They also given him 2 carries, which I love a guy who gets carries for 28 yards. And if you saw, he missed a wide open touchdown yesterday. He was wide open. Baker threw it behind him. It's just kind of miscommunication for the rookie, but anybody on Tampa Bay at this point is so interesting to me because this team is just throwing the ball all over the field. Listen to these pass attempts, man. Yesterday, they threw it 50 times. The week before, 45, 36, 24, 47. That's the last 5 weeks. If you're throwing it that much, and I know K. Dotton's slightly too owned. He's got to be owned. He's a top 5 tight end at this point, maybe, as much as he's getting the ball. But
I agree.
They're over 300 yards passing in 3 of the last 4. Baker's throwing over 3 touchdowns in the last 4 games. You want pieces. That's a weird one to say. You want pieces of the Tampa Bay passing offense, and it can't all be the tight end and the running backs. So give me Jalen McMillan.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I will say, didn't Sterling Shepard go out in this game with an injury?
For a while, and I think he came back too.
Did he? Yeah, I was kind of like on the Sunday morning show, the Sunday social that we do, where we go over a little bit of my rankings, and then they do the start sit questions. They asked me about who is my favorite pass catcher, and I was like, Jalen McMillan, I guess. Sure, we'll take a shot there. Honestly, like in reality, like it's anybody's guess, right? It could be anybody. I was like, it's most definitely going to be K. Dotton. And I said, but it wouldn't surprise me if it's K. Dotton and then the running backs, which is actually what it ended up being for the most part, right? But I was like, look, my guess out of the 2 receivers that it's going to be McMillan, and Sterling Shepard was my second guess. And I was like, it's Shepard because, like, could you see him being what Slayton was to the Giants when Neighbors went out, where it's just like the savvy old vet, you know what you're going to get from him. It's not super flashy, not a dominant guy out there, but he knows how to play and run routes, and Baker might be able to lean on him a little bit more. We all like McMillan's,
upside
ability here and his upside, but Shepard could be like the kind of the safer of the 2 in the long run. But yeah, McMillan is definitely the guy that I would rather have for that upside, because I mean, like, even though Shepard is fine, you're probably getting 5 for 50 from him.
Yeah,
okay,
we've seen that. Right?
Yeah, we're good. So, all right, next up here, Jalen Warren, who is playing right now. So we're showing the week 7 stats up here. What you got on?
Look, Jalen Warren is probably the highest drafted player that I've recommended yet on any of these waiver wire shows. He's been cut in a lot of leagues, but he was dealing with injuries. It has not been pretty. I'm not going to sugarcoat this, but he's starting to look healthy. That's the stats from last week, the 12 carries for 44, and then he's caught 2 for 15. I have the box score in front of me now because I wanted to see what he was at. He's at 6 carries for 22 right now, and he has another 2 catches for 27. Yep. He's coming on. And here's why we all like Jalen Warren, right? Was he finished top 5 in the NFL in receptions last year among running backs. That's what he can do. While Justin Fields was the quarterback there, he was not going to catch passes. Justin Fields, when he is under pressure, is not looking to dump it down to the running back. We all know Justin Fields is looking to take off and run, which he's very good at, right? Under him, the most receptions a running back has ever had with Fields is Roschon Johnson had 34. Now, Russ, on the other hand, he is not running at all. He is loving to dump the ball to a running back. So I think we can get back to the 6+ target games for Jalen Warren here, where he can pick up a bunch of receptions. Russ had 3 different running backs last year with over 30 receptions, with Samaje Perine, Javonte Williams, and Jaleel McLaughlin. So I expect to see Jalen Warren start picking it back up in the receiving game. And then the Steelers want to run the ball, and they're not hiding it anymore. They want to run the ball, and Jalen Warren's starting to look healthy. It wasn't a great week running backs, but I know there's places where I saw Warren on waiver wires in some of my leagues, and I'm going to put in claims this week because I think he's starting to come on stronger again.
I snatched him up in a league a couple weeks ago, fairly deepish league, a bunch of bunch of Maryland guys that write for other sites as well. So he was dropped, and I'm like, you know what? I had like the extra bench spot. I was able to throw some in the IR. I was like, you know what? I'll stash from Jalen Warren. He looked pretty solid, so he wasn't my cut, and he's just sitting there. I really doubt I'm going to use him. I've got a pretty decent team, but like in a pinch, man, I'm happy to throw him in there because he's going to get utilized, and especially if they're playing catch up, like he gets all those little dump offs, and he's really good in space, man. He's super good in space. So, all right, Bo Nix, it's time. We're in, man. We're into Bo Nix.
Can't believe it's fantasy production, dude. Like
I
never thought we'd get this, but here's the deal. If you can run as a quarterback, you set yourself up with such a high floor. And that's where we're at with Bo Nix. And now, I mean, yesterday, that's the best passing game we've seen from him. That's 28 completions and 37 attempts, 284 passing yards and 3 touchdowns. And he added another rushing touchdown, so a 4-touchdown day, 29.7 fantasy points, only behind Jalen Hurts. That's 3 of the past 4 weeks. He has finished in the top 10. And the other week when he didn't finish in the top 10 was last week when they blew out the Saints on Thursday Night Football, and he only had to throw the ball like 12 times and he still ran for 75 yards.
Yeah.
So when they've been in competitive games, it's Bo Nix who's keeping him in this. He's currently 4th in rushing yards among quarterbacks behind Lamar, Jaden Daniels, Kyler. That's ahead of names that we expect, like Jalen Hurts, Anthony Richardson, and whatever's going on down there. But 3rd in fantasy points over the last month, behind only Baker and Lamar. And this week he gets Baltimore. Baltimore is the team that Jameis just carved apart. They have the most passing yards allowed in the league. You're going to play Bo Nix.
Their secondary is beat up.
Yeah, you're going to play Bo Nix in that game. Here's the question. Bo Nix in that game or Patrick Mahomes?
I mean, look, Pat Mahomes has like arguably his best game of the season against the Raiders, and he still was like QB 15. You got to go Bo Nix, man. I know it's really tough to start Bo Nix against the Ravens. You look at the Ravens, you're like, oh, they're top defense, but you can score fantasy points against them. You still may not win the game, but like you're not going to run against them. Nope. But you've got to try to throw. And I mean, maybe the Ravens just demolish a rookie because they probably are good enough to try to do it, or good enough to be able to do that. But Bo Nix has shown he can make things happen. That's one of those like Bo Nix will probably end up being ranked like QB 11 to 13 for me next week. Barring I don't know who's on bye. I'm not looking at it right now, but kind of I feel like he's going to be like in that range, right, to where he's like startable but questionable. Could he finish QB 25? Absolutely. Could he finish QB 3? Absolutely. Like he's got that range of outcomes. And so, like, it just feels like you just kind of go in the middle, and it feels like a cop-out ranking, but that's what you have to do with those types of players. You can't honestly go in expecting him to finish QB3. You can't go in expecting him to finish QB25 because he's been outperforming that every single week for the last 4 weeks. So you kind of throw him in the middle and go, he's startable, but beware of the landmine because he's that type of quarterback.
After Baltimore, he has Kansas City. I'm not sure I want to play him in that matchup. Kansas City's got real good defense. But Atlanta, I'll probably play Bo Nix. I'd have to think about it, but that's not a bad matchup. At the Vegas, I think he can do well there. And then he's got Cleveland before their bye. So
but Cleveland hasn't been awesome either, man. They stepped up, man, for the Baltimore game. That was a divisional game. They love to stick it to each other in that division. So it's Baltimore or the Cleveland Browns have not been a top-notch defense by any means this year. And would we be surprised if the Browns trade a couple of their defensive players this year?
I would be more surprised if Za'Darius Smith is still on that team at that point.
So it could be even worse by the time we get there. So, all right, man, that is, I believe that's it, right? Yep, that's it for the Week 9 waivers. Hope we helped you out, and good luck this week, of course, while you are still here. Become an all-access member. Jump over to fantasysixpack.net/plans. Become an all-access member. Get our award-winning rankings. You get the full waiver wire article that Corey puts out every single week. He does his top 6 for free, which we cover here on this video. But he goes 30 players deep almost every single week. And then, of course, the best part about it really is you get access to the Discord where you're going to get direct access to myself, Corey, and all the other analysts and fans of Six Pack to ask all your questions and just get that personal advice that you need. Because look, these guys may not be available in your league, so you're looking, okay, well now who? So jump in there and hit us up. But that's all I got, man. Glad to talk to you again, and we'll have to do it again next week.
Sounds good.
See you, man.